What up, Fightful fam, and welcome to 1-2 Punch. Player 1, Shakiel Mahjouri. Player 2, Marquis Adam Martin of MMA Oddsbreaker, BJ Penn, and beyond. Adam, how's it going, dude?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to finally be on your show, man. I've watched a few of the other episodes with a few of my Canadian colleagues, and I'm glad to finally be here myself.
Yeah, the Canadians low-key running the game. Every day I find out more and more of us are doing this from up north. Okay, guys, welcome to 1-2 Punch. If this is your first time here, let me give you a quick breakdown on how we move and how we shake. This is 1-2 Punch. It's news talk, but on a win-lose-draw system. What that means is we're going to talk about the week's biggest winners and the week's biggest losers before drawing up a little preview for UFC Vegas 19 this Saturday. Without further ado, let me hit this animated intro. Shout out to the graphics team over at Fightful. Boom. A quick reminder, guys, if you can please help us out, hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, leave a like on this video. All those little acts go to help us get in front of more eyeballs, grow the show, grow the channel. Ticking away every day, getting a little bit more and more on those subs. So we really appreciate the support. If you're feeling extra generous, a little super chat donation always warms the heart. Leave us $1, leave us 1,000. I've got my preference, but it's all good. And most importantly, guys, just talk to us in the chat. We love to hear from you. We love to engage with you. And if nothing else, it lets me know that things are running smoothly. I don't have to hold this up to my ear like a maniac. Okay, Adam, that's enough of me shilling and you sitting there watching. Let's get to it, dude.
Sure.
This is one of those weeks we talked about it off air. News seemed a little light, but more than that, what I noticed is there are a whole lot of losers and not as many clear winners. So let's start on the losers side today, and I don't want to bury the lead. Bryan Caraway, legendary UFC, WEC fighter in the news. For a really troubling reason, he was hit with a number of charges, including allegedly stealing his ex-girlfriend Miesha Tate's ATV. What goes through your mind on initial read of that headline?
Sad to hear, man, honestly, because he's dealt with a lot the last few years. He was in the UFC for many years. He did really well in the UFC. He had a lot of really good wins, like wins over guys like Aljamain Sterling. But he had, I think his father passed away from cancer a few years ago. He got released from the UFC. He was with Miesha Tate for like I think 15 years, maybe. They were together for many years, and they broke apart. She's with another fighter, Johnny Nunez. They have a child together, I believe, maybe two now. So it must be hard for him, man. So I can see why like he just broke eventually. It was hard to see. I mean, everyone's kind of like, just kind of throwing shade at him now and stuff, but I feel kind of bad for the guy, honestly, bro.
Yeah, I had the privilege of interviewing Bryan Caraway pretty early into my MMA coverage over at Fansided, and he, towards me, was very cordial, very kind, very open to discussing whatever I wanted to discuss. And like you said, it's easy to look at these headlines and be kind of jaded and start. Okay, first and foremost, if he did the things that he is being charged with, no excuses. There's no way to condone that sort of behavior. But like you're saying, it probably points to some deeper rooted problems that you and I think both hope he can address, because you don't want, especially in this sport, like we talk about it all the time. We're talking about it a little bit off air. Like these guys and girls go through so much. They take damage. They're traumatized. They work hard. They often don't see the fruits of their labor, financially or legacy wise. And so it's always a shame when we're kind of, not only is it a shame, but like it's sort of a reminder about what happens to a lot of these fighters once they wrap up their careers. And not to say they're all going to go out and allegedly commit criminal acts, but we saw it with that wonderful feature that MMA Fighting did on the King Spencer
Fisher. Yep.
Like, it's just rough. These guys fade away. You don't hear from them. Sean Ross Sapp and I were talking about Brian Bowles. Like, where has he been? I know he had some addiction issues, but like it's just a reminder that when like we don't see these guys, but their lives keep going, and a lot of times it's not the sort of fairy tale picture they're hoping for.
Dude, the brain trauma is a real thing, man. That's absolutely for sure. There was a Spencer Fisher story. Steve Morocco did an amazing job with that story. It's just incredible journalism. That guy's one of the best in the game. And now there's another. I think he did it. Maybe it was him too. But Mac Danzig, another former UFC fighter. I think he was an Ultimate Fighter winner, if I'm not mistaken. Now he's coming out and talking about his brain trauma. There's definitely something going on with poor Bryan Caraway. Like, I feel bad for the guy. I just think it's a lot easier to say, this guy's nuts and look what he's doing to Miesha Tate, leave her alone. I'm not saying that anything he did, I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying there is some other stuff going on. Like, this guy's been through a lot in the last couple of years. I was actually just watching this documentary the other day on Chris Benoit, and they were talking about him and the murders, and I'm sure your fans talk about this all the time and stuff, but I used to be a huge wrestling fan before I became an MMA fan, quite frankly, and that was something that was very shocking. But I think now that we know more about brain trauma and CTE and stuff, we're kind of starting to realize, what maybe was actually going on there. It wasn't as easy as saying this guy's insane and killed his family. Just as it's easy to say, Bryan Caraway is a weirdo and what are you doing, right? I think there's some other stuff going on Shaq, and I think that as years go on, we're going to see these guys as they get older, and you're going to see more of this. Quite frankly, you're going to see worse stuff than this. Guys going through serious problems.
Yeah, and I will. I admittedly was scrambling to get the graphics up today, so I will be changing the title card that reads Miesha's Crazy Ex. So sorry, Bryan Caraway.
I didn't even notice that, honestly. I didn't even notice that. Yeah. I'm not really throwing shit at you. I just think in general.
No. But I think you're right, and I was not thinking clearly when I put that together.
It's okay, Shaq. We'll give you a pass on it.
We'll let it slide this time. Joseph Bo's in the comment section. It's crazy that this is going back as far as 2018. Yeah, so if people don't really know the timeline regarding Bryan Caraway and Miesha Tate, what happened? I think they had been dating since like college, and they had been together for a very long time. And I think around 2018, Miesha and Bryan Caraway broke up, and like immediately after, Miesha Tate was in this relationship with Johnny Nunes. They appeared to be very happy. She got pregnant. They have children now. So I imagine for Bryan Caraway, I don't know what the private life was like, but in terms of what was publicly available on that timeline, there was no time for closure from the outside looking in, at least. There's a lot of headlines in that regard. So,
and dude, think about it. Miesha Tate, man. Come on. Like, he lost Miesha Tate. That's like every MMA fan's dream girlfriend. Let's be completely honest. He was dating her, dude. Many times my friends, when we were watching fights, would be like, how is this guy dating her? But they really, truly loved each other. And they were together, and they became something in MMA together. They, their journey together, sleeping on the mats, becoming something was pretty inspirational watching. I always thought, Bryan Caraway was someone I could kind of look up to in a way, because to me, he was just like an average guy who was dating like the hottest fighter in the game. And he was a good fighter too. And I'm like, I want to be like this guy a little bit. And now we see, some of the stuff that was going on. It's sad, man, But I don't think you said anything really wrong, Shaq. I think a lot of people would think that. I'm just trying to think a little bit deeper, knowing the guy a little bit. From everything I've heard, he's a really decent guy, but I think he's been through a lot mentally, and he just kind of snapped, man.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll go 1 for 2 on the Bryan Caraway train. Got the hot girlfriend down, not so much on the top 15 status in my own line of work. One day, we're working our way there. All right, Adam, let's move past this. Another guy who, okay, let me say, this story is the one that cemented how dumb some MMA fans are. Not all, not Joseph Bo's in the chat, not everyone else watching the live stream, but some. Khamzat Chimaev pulled out again from his Leon Edwards fight. He appeared, I'm not going to say the name of the thing that gets, I don't know if it still affects the algorithm, but it did. But, the bad no illness. It appears that Khamzat Chimaev is one of these long haulers who, I think it was at the end of November that he contracted it, yet he's still experiencing really bad symptoms and still can't get through a healthy camp. And this video footage came out from, I think, an outlet called Front Kick. They were doing a documentary in Sweden, and where Khamzat is training, and the dude's got fevers, the dude's in the hospital. He called his manager allegedly and said, I think I'm gonna die. He appears to be super, super ill, and I believe him. Now, I was sharing that story on Facebook, and I ran into a few people accusing Khamzat Chimaev of either 1, ducking Leon Edwards, or 2, not being in shape or not being able to make the weight. To which I would like to remind you, this is the guy who fought like what 3 times in a 4-month span or something like that. It's just like I don't know if these people are dense, if they're just lazy, if they're trying to get a rise out of people. But like, how do you call Khamzat Chimaev someone who's scared, who's not working hard enough? Like, whether or not you think that this whole global situation is being blown out of proportion or not, accusing Khamzat of those things is a way bigger stretch.
Bro, they accused Khabib of ducking people. Like they accused like John Jones of ducking people. GSP is ducking them. Come on. Khamzat's a beast. You know, he got sick, man. He's really sick right now. The one thing I'll say is like I remember a few months ago when this first came out, and there was all denials from his team and stuff saying he's fine, he's gonna be better. Like it's almost like they didn't take it very seriously, man. And now you're starting to see like this guy was really ill. His lungs are like seriously inflamed. He was supposed to fight in December. This fight, he's not going to fight till June now. They're saying at earliest.
Yeah.
Like he's seriously sick. But you know, his misery is someone else's gain in Belal Muhammad filling in now against Leon Edwards. And you know, Bilal's a guy that I got a lot of respect for, man. He's a really solid fighter, and taking this fight on short notice, getting that opportunity. You know, Khamzat, that sucks for him, man. Especially because, like you said, Shaq, he had those 3 wins in that quick span.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like the next thing. He looked like the next big superstar. He did. I'm not so like at this point. How do we really know that? Like, is he even going to like bounce back from this? This could be a serious illness going forward. This could be something that affects him for a long time. I'd like to believe this guy is going to be good going forward, man. But you know, for now, he's going to be out for a little while.
Yeah, I agree. It's rough to see, and the reality is like this does nothing to help out Khamzat because he was on the hottest of momentums going into this Leon Edwards fight. Like, when's the last time an unranked guy got gifted a number 15 spot just to justify a fight with the number 3 guy in the world? Like, it doesn't really happen. And for Khamzat, not in terms of his overall career trajectory, but in terms of capitalizing, he's losing it. He's not going to regain this sort of momentum because his rise was in a lot of ways circumstantial, right? Fight Island, a shortage of opponents, very impressive wins, but he's not Tony Ferguson. He's not Habib. We're not going to wait 2-3 years for his return. The sport's going to move on. And when he comes back at this rate, he's not going to get number 3 Leon Edwards anymore. So the idea that Khamzat Chimaev is running away from this fight is so ridiculous. And the reality is waiting does him no good right now. This is going to set him back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserved the fight in the first place, quite frankly. Like you said, he really was the beneficiary of good circumstance. Like there was really no other fights available for Leon. He needed a fight really. He hasn't fought in almost 2 years now. Can you believe that? Like this guy is one of the best fighters on the planet and he doesn't fight. It's really sad to see. I'd like to see Leon back in the cage. I wanted to see him fight someone that was like top 5. He's fighting Belal, still a top 50. Actually, Belal is actually ranked above Khamzat in the ranking. I think he's 1 spot above him, 13 to 14. So, you know, it sucks. I'd like to think that Khamzat can bounce back. He seems like a mentally tough guy.
Yeah.
He's obviously a great fighter, but dude, I mean, the guy's ill. He's being flown to the U.S. now to get checked at like by specialists. Like this is serious stuff, man.
Yep. Agreed. So. Max Kukui Holloway in the chat. We will come back to your question. It is on the lineup, so we won't rush it. Let's segue here nicely from. Well, we'll go from the loser here in Chimaev to sort of the middle guy who's Leon Edwards, and then we'll jump to the winner, Belal Muhammad. For Leon Edwards, so you know he's going from fighting basically unranked Khamzat to fighting slightly higher ranked Belal Muhammad on the March 13th UFC Fight Night. It's a main event. Dana White wanted to reward Leon with a Colby Covington fight after Khamzat fell out, but that's not going to happen. On one hand, I want to say good for Leon. He needs to get back in there. Let's not make any mistake about it. It's been 2 years. And, you know, people aren't long for this MMA game unless you're Glover Teixeira or Randy Couture. On the other hand, you're stuck fighting Belal Muhammad, a really tough guy who's been super active on a long winning streak, top 15 guy. Like, there's nothing to gain for Leon here short of activity ultimately, what's the lesser of two evils? Taking a Belal Muhammad fight in a main event, or waiting out even longer than Leon already has been?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. He needed to fight, man. I think he should have fought even sooner than this. They kept trying to put that Khamzat fight together. They tried 3 times. The UFC really wanted to book that fight. I think the plan was to have the winner of that fight the winner of Burns and Usman. Now they're changing on the fly. You see what's going on with the Ultimate Fighter. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts right now.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, honestly, like considering it's a short notice fight, it's not a bad fight. You know, Belal is a top 15 guy. He's coming off 4 straight wins. He's won 8 of his last 9 fights in the UFC. So he's actually a very underrated, good, solid fighter. Having said that, I think Leon Edwards truly is a world-class talent, man. And I expect him to look pretty good in this fight. And I think it's a good thing that he's going to get some ring time, because a 2-year layoff and then getting a title fight, for instance, that's a bad idea. So I like the fact he's going to take this fight. They could go 25 minutes and get that experience of going 5 rounds and then maybe fighting for the belt in his next outing in the octagon.
I want to give a quick shout out to, I think, another Canadian who we need to get on here very soon. You know him well. Mr. Cole Shelton is in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there he is.
And he makes a very good point, which is that March 13th card went from Edwards Chimaev, Rosenstruik Gain, Ige Hall to Edwards versus Belal, Ige versus who knows, and then Rothwell versus Lins. Like, dude, the UFC is trying to pull one over on us. They have this UFC 259 card, which, make no mistake, is ridiculously stacked. You got a super fight between Izzy and Yan. You've got Sterling versus Piotr Yan, and then you also have Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. But everything around that is bad, dude. We were watching UFC 258. We were doing a watch along for the entire main card, and that is the card that convinced me that we should be more selective about which fights we do the watch-alongs for, because we get to the end of Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber, and I'm just thinking to myself, there has to be something else before the main event. There's like this does not feel like a co-main event fight on a pay-per-view, does it?
No, I think, especially if you're shelling out $65, you'd like to get a better co-main event.
Yeah.
The original co-main event was Hall and Weidman, which was a slightly better fight, I think, but not even really a co-main event. It's just funny how like it has one title fight and the next one's got 3, the one after that's got 2. Like you'd think that they would try to be a little more consistent, but it's all timing, man. It's all injuries, and we'll give the UFC a little bit of a break with all the COVID stuff. It's not easy to like run fights every week, and they're doing a pretty good job of it for the most part. I think, but I'm with you, man. There are some weak cards coming up, but there's some good cards too. Like this weekend's card, I think tomorrow's card, I should say, is unbelievable in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think there's some really good cards, but it's too inconsistent. Like, and then we're gonna have a card coming up. I know it's gonna happen where like 4 fights fall off the day of, and we get like 6 fights, and they're all like really bad fights, and the main event's gonna be some fight that like it was on the undercard originally. It's gonna happen, man. It's happened before, and it's gonna happen with COVID. Just watch.
I love this. Joseph Bozo is always like keeping us up to date with what's going on while we're shooting this. He's giving us some news credited to Cole Shelton, who's also in the live chat. So I just love that.
What happened?
I said that apparently Vicente Luque was offered to step up and fight Leon Edwards, but they didn't want to do a rematch, and that So that's that. Okay, very quickly on Belal. Can I just say, everyone was talking about Julian Marquez's call out of Miley Cyrus, but I think the most lukewarm call out of all time was when Belal Muhammad called out Li Jingliang. It's just amazing to me that the guy, it's just so, everything in the UFC appears to be backwards at times. You got Belal calling out the Leech, and yet he ends up with number 3 Leon Edwards. How big of a winner is Belal in all this, who for the longest time was just not getting a quality opponent?
Huge, man. I'm telling you, he is underrated. Like, I was looking at his record tape, because looking at the fight from a handicapping perspective, Leon Edwards will be a big favorite, but I'm trying to think, like, does Belal have a chance? And look at his record. It's really good. Look at his record in UFC. It is 9-3, I believe. That's very solid. And the 3 losses are to 2 of them are ranked guys in the top 15 right now. So he's a solid guy. But here's the problem. All his wins are by, like, decision. And Leon Edwards is one of those guys that does a really good job winning decisions. So, all credit to Belal, and I think he's going to put up a better fight than some people believe, but I think eventually it's not going to go his way. Probably see Leon win decision. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. But the fact that he's getting the opportunity to get this fight is a huge win.
Yeah.
And he does have a chance. Not like it's a complete blowout. I would favor it like 70-30 for Leon or something like that. So
Okay.
Belal has a chance to win this fight. He could possibly wrestle Leon. It's possible.
All right, we'll see what happens. Last of the losers pile for me. UFC Vegas 19, man. I don't know what people were snacking on, but what is it? 4 fighters missed weight,
Yep.
including one whose name is escaping me, and you know who it is. Not only did he miss the featherweight limit, he missed it by so much that he missed the lightweight limit too. Do you remember that guy's name?
Yeah, Rafael Alves. He was making his UFC debut, supposed to make his UFC debut tomorrow. The fight's been pulled. He was fighting this guy Pat Sabatini, who's also making his debut. He did make weight, but Alves, like you said, he was contracted to fight at 145 plus an extra pound allowance. Came in at 157, so he wouldn't have even been allowed to fight at lightweight without getting fined. This is pretty sad. I mean, there's been some bad weight misses over the years. I was thinking about Rumble and Vitor Belfort. Rumble came in 12 pounds over. That was a big WTF moment. This was the same thing, man. The difference is this guy is an undercard guy no one's quite frankly heard of before. I think this card because it's his first fight, and he was on the Contender Series too, actually. But in general, there wasn't a much fanfare for this fight. But the fact this guy's missed by 12 pounds, I think people are clicking on that article today. I believe it, man. People are clicking on that, reading about it.
Yeah. Do you think he's not even a one and done in terms of weigh-ins? Do you think he's a one and done in the UFC?
Yeah. I think so. I just like, how could you even trust that guy to?
Was
come
this a
back?
short notice fight?
It was, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was supposed to fight Mike Trezano. So actually, it would be Sabatini who came in short notice, which would have made more sense if he missed weight. But this guy had a little bit of a camp, still I think somewhat short. He had posted a statement. I didn't check it yet, but I just saw on Twitter that he said that he had fallen ill this morning and couldn't cut the weight. So not sure what happened, but Shaq, the weight cuttings, and we talk about brain trauma. What a weight cutting. That's what. The first time I ever watched Ultimate Fighter, first season when they showed the guys in the saunas, I'd never seen that before. We don't really have wrestling up here in Canada. You know how it is, Shaq. It's not really a wrestling heavy country. So I never knew about weight cutting, and I saw it in the show. I was like, what the hell is this? And throughout the years, we've seen that and time and time again. So I think that also plays a part, the weight cut.
Yeah, people always saying, "Oh, the media they can't scrap. Why even try?" I'd say not only do I not want to get hit in this pretty mug, but I'm in Balkan season 24/7, so I'm the big winner
me too,
as far
man.
as I'm concerned.
It's tough, dude. Cutting all that weight and just going into the octagon depleted too the next day. It's brutal. I don't know what these guys. It's unbelievable what they do. I have so much respect for the fighters.
100%. All right, let's move on to. I know this show's been all over the place in sort of formatting, but I don't know. I guess the fighters are the losers here, and Dana's the winner, even though I think he thinks he's the loser here. This story comes out where Dana White admits to betting $1 million on a boxing match. The first time he bet 7 figures, and he lost all of it, describing himself as a degenerate gambler, laughing it off. I didn't read too much into it, but you mentioned it off the air. It's like, how tone deaf is it that while you and I week to week are talking about fighter pay and how these guys aren't being compensated fairly and how they're struggling to make ends meet, have multiple jobs, you have the president of the company more or less bragging about the fact that he can lose a cool mill and, barely makes a dent in his bank account.
No, it's a bad look, man, in my opinion. We all knew Dana White liked to gamble. Like, we've heard the stories about him on the Vegas Strip playing the tables. I didn't know he was too into the sports betting thing. I knew he played tables. Mm-hmm. This was the first interview where I knew, we really found he was into betting on sports too. And of course, you got the fans saying he's betting on the fights of the UFC, which I don't believe is happening. I don't think he would risk his business to do that, because that's what would be at risk had he do that. But he said he bets on college basketball, boxing. He lost $1 million on. That was 14 years ago, Shaq. How many other bets has he lost since then? Because you lose $1 million, you probably bet on something else for $1 million to get that $1 million back. Yeah. And you might lose that and you start chasing and it just adds up. I would like to think this guy's somewhat of a winning bettor, but I have a feeling he loses a lot of money, man. But he doesn't give a shit. Sorry, I shouldn't swear.
No, you can swear. Just don't talk about that. Okay. Don't talk about that sick thing.
But. Yeah, I know that thing that screwed something up for me too yesterday too. So I was like, what the hell is this thing with the algorithm? But anyways, Dana White. Listen, Dana White, the guy, he's got an amazing company. He's provided a lot of opportunity for a lot of people and the fighters. They wouldn't really have that opportunity without him. But the pay is just so crazy low. And then you have the president bragging all the time about how he just drops all this money on the tables. It's very tone deaf. It's very dumb.
My all-time favorite piece of media content or headlines that surfaced in the MMA world was when Colby Covington tracked down Dana White in a casino, and like he's got some women that are not his wife next to him. There's a bunch of like old rich white dudes and a bunch of like young scantily clad women. They're betting their money, and you could just tell Dana White does not want to be on camera right now.
I know. When I was writing the article, I was like typing in Dana White casino just to find like pictures of him sitting in the casino. That was the only thing that came up was him with the Colby Covington, where he's like, "Hey Dana," he's like, "What are you doing here?" That whole thing was so ridiculous. It's funny though, eh? Like 2 years later, now Colby's Dana's best friend. Oh, Colby's gonna fight Leon. We love Colby here. I want to see Colby fight Usman again. It's really funny, eh? How he's in his bad books and then you switch to his good books.
If you want a sample of how gross UFC MMA Reddit is. I made the argument, a very tasteful, very non-confrontational argument that, for me, I find more enjoyment in Colby Covington's shtick when he veers away from the race and political comments and leans into chasing down Dana White at a casino, posting movie spoilers and pinning them to the top of his Twitter, telling Kamaru Usman that he can't draw money with a paper and a green crayon, like walking out to Kurt Angle's theme song. Like, I just made the argument that this is the stuff I enjoy from Colby more, and that I believe he's clever enough to do it. Yeah. But oh no, all I got in response is Colby's not racist. Brazil's not an ethnicity. How could he be racist to Brazil? How could he? Kamaru's from Nigeria. They have tribes in Nigeria. Like,
yeah, I know. Listen, he said some stupid things. I'd like to think, and I've always thought that he's like been playing a character this whole time.
Yeah, he is.
And when the day he retires, he's going to be like, guys, I was just joking the whole time. I was trying to get you to watch my fight. Like Chael Sonnen. Chael is the same way.
We know that's what he's doing. Yeah,
exactly, right? So I'd like to think that, but people they get so angry about the stuff he says, man. I personally think he's pretty entertaining. Some of the stuff he said, like the little tribe thing with Usman, that's going a little too far, I believe. But I think he's a pretty entertaining guy for the most part. That's why I think the UFC pushes him so hard, man, because they want guys that are outspoken a little bit. And, he's a really cocky guy. He's out there, he posts videos every day on his Instagram, him with like these smoking hot girls down in Miami beaches, like, and talking about betting.
I love it.
I love it too, man. I like it too.
For me, the mega, and this is not a matter of being right wing or left wing. Stoking the political, for me, the getting into the politics of it is just the lowest common denominator. Like, it is so easy to market yourself when you're gonna because you immediately have 50% of the audience, right? 50% of the country when you go down that route. For me, even though it's still super pro wrestling, in your face, immature stuff, I find a lot more enjoyment when he takes the extra second to think, like, what could I do today that's going to rile up everyone, regardless of ethnicity or political affiliation? What can I do today that's going to... Dude, when he calls Ben Askren Ben Askren, like, that is so juvenile, but it is so funny to me. Like, that's the stuff. I hope now that, as... the election is behind us now, we're going to have to, I hope, at some point move on from this right-wing, left-wing thing to a degree for a good 4 years. I'd like to see what else Colby Covington can come up with, because I think he's got no shortage of juvenile ideas that I am all for consuming. I
mean, like, in many ways, his rise kind of coincided at the same time as Trump's presidency. So, like, the same time, right? Now that Trump's not in office, it's going to be interesting to see, like, does he keep attaching himself to that whole MAGA gimmick, or does he do something else? I'm not really a political guy by any means. Like, obviously I pay attention somewhat, but I don't talk about politics, like, with friends or on Twitter, because, dude, all you're doing is enticing an argument, in my opinion. So anytime he talks about this stuff, I completely ignore it for the most part, But I can see why it offends people at the same time, man. I think he's an entertaining guy, and these heels, we need heels in MMA too, right? Like, we need guys like Chael. We need guys like Colby. We can't just have these nice guys like Stephen Thompson and Gilbert Burns. Like, they're great guys, amazing guys. The sport would be boring if there's only great guys. You also need that, like, kind of like evil guy. So I like the heels, man. And I like Colby too.
Yeah, I really hope they get this tough thing done with Colby and Jorge. Like, Get Trump
Me
to make an
too.
appearance there. You know, they both love Donald Trump. Donald Trump loves both of
I didn't think
them.
about that. That's a good point. Yeah.
It would be so much fun. It would be so much fun.
It just they they brought it back at such a tough time with COVID. Like
That's a
all
good pun there.
yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I screwed up, didn't I?
No, I'm talking about that. You said it's too tough.
Oh, okay. Too tough. Yeah. Anyways, it's funny at the time they brought it back. I feel like it's bad timing because I don't know how they're going to do all the testing and stuff for these guys in the house. Like, how's that going to work? How would it work for if they brought guests into the house? I'm not sure. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. But my question is, why are they talking about this Masvidal and Usman rematch? That's my question, because to me that is not an interesting fight, man.
Yeah. I get why they're doing it. I'm down to watch like Usman versus Masvidal in a straight Muay Thai fight. But I agree. There's I think more enticing matchups you can make right now. All right, we do need to move on to the closing portion of this. Are there any other winners or losers you wanted to like?
No one
quick
can
fire off to. Okay, cool. One last reminder, folks, before I do it again at the end, that is, hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, leave a like on this video. Those subscriber numbers are ticking up every day. If you can help us keep the momentum going, that would mean the world. Thank you very much. Hit us up, super chat donations, that goes a long way as well. We love hearing from all of you. And actually, we did ignore Max El Kakui Holloway, who did ask, who do you guys favor in the Perry Rodriguez fight? Let's do that real quick. At this point, I'm going to say Mike Perry just because I think Daniel Rodriguez's style caters to what Mike Perry likes to do, and Mike Perry's done it longer at a higher level. At the same time, man, Mike Perry's such a wild card. Like, who knows if he's going to show up on weight? Who knows if he's going to show up with, like, his lovely wife could, bring the baby to the corner. Like, I don't know what Mike Perry is going to be up to, but I think Mike Perry's the safe bet there, and I say that as a big Daniel Rodriguez fan.
Yeah, I think it can go either way, honestly. They're both strikers. They both like to stand and bang, like you said. I think Perry's more like boxing heavy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He will go for a takedown, though. We've seen that in the last couple of fights with Mickey Gall. He took him down. But if he doesn't get the takedown and he stays on the feet, he can be picked apart by a more technical striker like Tim Means did. Mm-hmm. Tim Means, by the way, lost to Daniel Rodriguez. So it's kind of interesting. There's some MMA math there. I don't know. Like, I think it can go either way. But my lean right now probably a little bit towards Rodriguez, just because Shaq, honestly, with all Mike Perry is dealing with outside the cage, being a new dad, all the legal issues and stuff, I'm not so sure where he's at mentally, but we'll see. I have to think about this fight a bit more. My initial lean is towards D-Rod, though. And
Eric Clark in the chat says, yeah, Mike Perry, so he appears to agree with us. Yeah. All right, cool, guys. Let's head to the UFC Vegas 19 preview. We can keep this one kind of short because it's not the most enticing card at first glance. Let's start with the main event, though. Adam, where does Curtis Blaydes go with a win here? Because I think Derrick Lewis has much more upside in terms of fresh matches at the top of the division, but Curtis Blaydes could find himself in limbo if Francis Ngannou emerges the UFC heavyweight champion at UFC 260. Curtis Blaydes, top 3 guy, I think. If he wins this fight, who does he fight next?
That's a great question. I think the biggest problem for him right now, the biggest dilemma, is John Jones moving up to heavyweight, obviously. Mm-hmm. Because even though he has lost to Ngannou twice, I think you could make that fight again if he beats Lewis and has 5 straight wins, like beating the best guys in the world. How do you deny the guy? But at the same time, the UFC loves the fresh matchups. We know that. Mm-hmm. I think they're obviously going to do Stipe Francis. John Jones will probably get the winner sometime later this year. So even if Curtis was to get a title shot, he's going to have to wait probably another year. Probably the winner of Rosenstrike and Gone. That happens later this month. That makes sense, I guess. I feel bad for Curtis because I think he is a championship caliber fighter, but it's like the 2 times he took a step up to fight Francis, lost. And now Dana White doesn't like him because he is a wrestling-based fighter. Dana White has had some negative comments towards his style. Some fans have had too. I personally enjoy watching him fight. I think he's dominant. He's like Khabib kind of heavyweight. Yep. So I think he's a beast. But I don't know if he's really like that marketable guy for the UFC. I think it'll be John Jones next, and Blaydes is going to have to keep winning fights. He might have to win 6 or 7 fights in a row. Like they might put him in that John Fitch category where it's like they don't give him a title shot because they just don't like his style. And
he has been quite outspoken about why am I going to take a harder fight when I can take on an easier fight for the same amount of money? I'm not going to get a title shot. I got people to feed. It all makes sense, but it's probably not the sort of language that Dana White is personally a fan of. Myron Kidd in the chat says Blaydes takedown over under. I mean, it's going to happen. For me, the more interesting bet is, will Derrick Lewis do the infamous Derrick Lewis stand up? Like, anyone who thinks jiu-jitsu or wrestling are effective arts, they have not seen Derrick Lewis just stand up. I made the argument on SureDog that I think Blaydes' top control is different than what Derrick Lewis has faced, but I did have people fighting back. Hey, Alexander Volkov got back on his feet. Justin Willis got back from his feet. I think it's inevitable that Blaydes takes Derrick down, but do you think he can maintain that position?
You know what? I don't think this fight is like big of a blowout as everyone's saying. Like, I am picking Blaydes, okay? I'm going to pick him by TKO because I think he does get the takedowns and gets the ground and pound finish eventually. But I just think everyone's completely ignoring whatever Derrick Lewis does in all of his fights, Shaq, which is out cardio these guys, take him to the third round, knock them out, or win a split decision. He's did it so many times. This fight's different a little bit. But who has the better cardio if it gets in the fourth and fifth round? I wonder, because Blaydes looked exhausted against Volkov in that fifth round. And Volkov didn't get the finish there. Blaydes was able to kind of like grind him and hug him a little bit to get through that fifth round. But Derrick's not like that. Derrick's got that crazy, incredible power. So to answer the guy's question about how many takedowns I would set the over-under, I'd probably set it, quite frankly, like 10, because it is a 5-round fight. And he took his last guy, Volkov, down 14 times. So I think takedowns should be set at over-under 9.5 or 10 or whatever. But, you know, I think Lewis, if he doesn't get finished and he does make it to that last round or two, there's a chance he could have one of those infamous comebacks. I think it's a better, like, the line keeps going up, Shaq. I'm looking at the betting line. It opened at minus 300. It's almost minus 500 now.
Wow.
Derrick Lewis is a quality fighter, man. He beat Francis Ngannou. He's beaten some really good guys, man. I think people are really ignoring him here. Don't get me wrong, guys. I am picking Blaydes too. My head says he should win. I just think people are really dismissing Derrick Lewis and the ability to get up, like against Olynyk, like you said, Shaq, got up, didn't get subbed, and then knocked him out.
Yep.
It's possible that could happen.
Same with Marcin Tybura as well.
Yep.
Okay. I want you to be the optimist. In Coach Kavanaugh's eyes, I want you to be the anti-Zane Simon. Look at this very underwhelming card from a name value and storyline perspective, and tell me what is something people should be excited for.
This weekend's card?
Yeah.
Well, I like the card. There's one fight I just mentioned his name, Alexei Oleinik. He's fighting this guy, Chris Daukaus.
Yes.
This is a fight I would like to pay attention to if I was a fan. Chris Daukaus is a Philadelphia cop. He also fights in the UFC now. He's had 2 fights. He knocked both his opponents out in the first round. He has incredible boxing skills. I was watching this guy's footage from before the UFC. Very fun, exciting fighter. Crisp hands, powerful, fast, and he's like young guy, like low 30s. Tough dude. He's in better shape. He lost a lot of weight from his debut till now. I think this is a guy to look out for. And another young heavyweight, Tom Aspinall, who's fighting Andrei Arlovsky. That's another guy that absolutely could be a superstar. He is getting a tough fight against a veteran Arlovsky who's won some fights recently against prospects, but I think that, you know, Aspinall with this power and incredible boxing as well could have a great performance. So, you know, I actually think this card's pretty solid. I know it's light on name value outside the main event, but there are some sleeper fights. Those 2 heavyweight fights, someone's getting knocked out for sure.
Okay, and as we wrap up here, I'm going to go to my favorite new pastime, which is putting the one shot on you, Mr. Adam Martin. And I just realized I accidentally put your name on the one shot as Adam Hunter. Shout out to MMA Roasted.
Yes.
Okay, there are 2 points here that I want to address, Mr. Hunter. One, once played in a band called PS2. First of all, tell me a little bit about this band and whose idea was it for that horrendous name?
We're probably like 12 years old, man. Me and my buddies, we just used to jam in my basement. Who came up with the name? My old man did. He had bought me the PlayStation 2. I think I was about 12 years old when it came out, and he's like, you guys should call your band PS2. So we just kind of stuck with that.
Love it. And then I also want you to tell me, what was it about the magic of John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson that left you in a heap of tears, just emotion swelling, a waterfall? What left you as like a husk of your former self after that fight?
Best fight I've ever seen You can ask my friend Aaron Bronstetter, who was there beside me watching the fight. He turned to me, he's like, "What'd you think of that fight?" I was like, "It was so good." It is a true story.
All right, love it.
No shame.
No shame. We also got people saying Tom Aspinall, shout out to Myron Kidd, says Tom Aspinall should wash Andrei Arlovsky.
I think so too.
I'll be locking him in for DFS.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Arlovsky's new counter boxing, cash a paycheck and take no damage approach, while very, very smart, might sort of be his downfall in a fight against Aspinall, who I think is a superior boxer.
Yep.
All right, Adam, we are here at the end of the road, making good time, getting out on time for once. Can you please let people know where they can find you, what they can do to support you, and where they can where they can get their hands on a copy of PS2's debut tape?
Well, first off, man, I just want to say thank you to have me on. Shaq, you're doing a great job, man. You've really come a long way in a short amount of time, so I wanted to tell you that, man.
Thank you, man.
For me, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. My main website's MMAoddsbreaker.com, BJPenn.com, but I've joined a bunch of other websites in the last couple of weeks, including MyMMAnews.com. And there's this new app called Fanatics MMA. It's a free app. I just joined their website to do some writing for them, help them support their app and push it because it just came out. Very cool app, pick fights. Very cool. It's free too, so it's not like it's going to cost you money. It's very cool. And then I also joined this website called Elite Fantasy. I'm starting today, but my first article is coming out next week. That's a subscription thing, so it's kind of like what you guys are doing a little bit with your super chat thing. So yeah, it's a little bit different for me, Shaq, because I've always been a freemium kind of guy, I guess. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to go the other routes, just for a part of what I do. So all that stuff. But again, thanks again, man, for having me, and all the people that are in the chat, Cole, and all the other guys asking the questions. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I'm always down to chat about MMA. Don't know much about pro wrestling these days, but if you want to talk about the heyday of WCW, I could talk about that too.
Yeah, peep the brand new AEW crew neck I got, because I just love black crew necks, and I was already buying myself a R.I.P. Brody Lee shirt, so I thought I might as well treat myself. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Please go follow Adam at MM Martin, or MMA Damn Martin, whatever you prefer. You can hit me up at Shaq_Fu. Last reminder, if you can please hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, leave a like on this video. That would be so great. A big shout out to our audio-only listeners. You're a big part of what we do, so thank you for holding us down as always. It's time for that shitty outro, so without further ado, stay tuned for everything fightful and so delightful. Peace out.